everyone. So, Goldland episode 3 and 4 review, Trust Survival and the Slow Collapse of Moral Boundaries. Episode 3 and 4 of Goldland continues to deepen the series' dark, morally unstable world, pushing Hiju further into situation where survival and trust constantly collide. Directed by Kim Hoon, the drama steadily builds tension around gold power and the shifting alliances between characters who can never fully trust each other, especially in the uneasy partnership forming between Hiju and Woogie. Episode 3 begins by tightening the stakes around the gold operation. Hiju quickly realizes she cannot handle everything alone, especially the logistics of moving and selling large quantities of gold. Woogie steps in with a calculated offer of help, but his assistant is clearly transactional. Their dynamic is immediately defined by suspicion rather than trust. Even as they agree to split profits and collaborate on selling the gold through disguised channels, every conversation between them feels like a negotiation layered with hidden intent. At the same time, the series expands its criminal backdrop through Jin Man's parallel investigation into a missing coffin case tied to hidden valuables. The implication that gold is connected to the case add another layer of danger and reinforces the idea that nothing in this world exists without corruption beneath it. As Jin Man digs deeper, the boundaries between official investigation and personal interest begin to blur. Emotionally, episode 3 also briefly steps away from crime to explore Hiju's fractured relationship with her mother. Their interaction reveals long-standing emotional damage rooted in abandonment and resentment. Yet the episode doesn't present the relationship as purely broken. A quiet moment on a bus where Hiju allows her mother to rest on her shoulder introduces a fragile sense of reconciliation, even if it feels temporary and uncertain. That emotional fragility is quickly disrupted as the plot shifts back into violence and moral compromise. The encounter involving Cheol Jung escalates dangerously, forcing Hiju into a situation where survival overrides restraint. Her decision to strike him with a golf club to protect her mother marks an important psychological shift. She is no longer merely reacting to danger, she is participating in it. However, the aftermath complicates everything when her mother responds her to the authorities, leaving Hiju emotionally and legally cornered. Episode 4 then reframes everything through flashbacks, giving crucial insight into Hiju's past. Her earlier life working in a hotel reveals a pattern of manipulation control that predates the current gold conflict. Cheoljong's influence has followed her for years, reinforcing the idea that her present situation is not an accident but a continuation of long term exploitation. The narrative contrast becomes sharper when the story introduces Do Kyung at the casino. Unlike Cheoljong's aggression, Do Kyung represents charm, opportunity, and escape. Through gambling and risk taking, Hiju experiences a temporary sense of freedom, suggesting that her connection with him may have been tied as much to survival as to genuine emotion. This ambiguity becomes one of the episode's key emotional questions, whether her past feelings were ever truly personal or simply adaptive responses to instability. In the present timeline, Hiju is now deeply embedded in the gold operation, but her emotional clarity is eroding. She begins questioning her own motivation, particularly her relationship with Do Young, when whether her choice have ever been driven by love or necessity. This internal conflict adds psychological depth to her otherwise pragmatic decisions. Meanwhile, Jinman's investigation intensifies. Security footage leads him to suspect that a woman may be involved in transporting the gold, narrowing his focus onto potential suspects, including Hiju herself. This builds a sense of inevitable collision between her hidden action and external scrutiny. The tension reaches its peaks in the episode's final act. Hiju attempts to recover her conflict with Cheoljung through bribery, offering him money to leave her life permanently. But predictably, the situation spirals when he attempts to betray the agreement and seize more than what was offered. Before the situation can escalate further, Woogie intervenes. What follows is this episode's most shocking moment. Woogie kills Cheoljung. The act is sudden, brutal, and emotionally detached. Hiju doesn't intervene, instead watching in silence as the violence unfolds. Her reaction is not one of shock in the traditional sense, but something closer to emotional exhaustion. An acceptance that the world she is now part of operates beyond moral negotiation. This ending fundamentally alters the tone of the series. Woogy's action confirms that he is no longer simply an ally with questionable motives, but someone willing to eliminate obstacles without hesitation. At the same time, Hiju's passive response signals a critical transformation in her character. She is crossing into moral territory where survival begins to outweigh ethical resistance. Across both episodes, Goldland succeeds in maintaining a tense balance between crime thriller mechanics and psychological drama. The relationship between Hiju and Woogie remains deliberately unstable, built not only on trust but on mutual necessity. This instability keeps the narrative unpredictable as neither character is fully aligned with the other's intentions. The emotional weight of Hiju's backstory combined with Jinman's methodical investigation creates a layered structure where personal trauma and systemic crime constantly intersect. Even when the pacing slows, the underlying tension remains consistent because every storyline is moving towards exposure and, in the end, collapse. While some transition, particularly between emotional and procedural drama threads, can feel slightly uneven, the overall structure remains engaging. The show's strength lies in its willingness to let characters operate in morally ambiguous spaces without forcing immediate resolution. By the end of episode 4, Goldland firmly establishes that survival in this world requires compromise and sometimes complicity. Hiju is no longer just navigating danger, she is becoming part of it. Thank you for watching. Bye.